Monday night edition of the Crash the Pond podcast. Welcome everybody to a post-game edition of the Crash the Pond podcast. Jake, it's been a while since we've done one of these. In fact, I don't remember the last time we've done one of these, but
Did
great
we do one
occasion
last
to
year?
do so.
Who knows? Who cares?
We might have, but it's a great occasion. The Ducks just won in overtime. Troy Terry getting a beautiful feed on a Jamie Drysdale OT winner. The Ducks coming back in style. Ricard Raquel tying it up in the third period. So lots to discuss. We've actually got a ton to talk about. We're going to try to get you the most important, the most salient information, give you our thoughts on the Ducks' latest moves. The Ducks started the season. The Ducks are now 3 games in already. It feels like that happened in a blink. The Ducks have another game Tuesday night, so it's just rocking and rolling. But how are you feeling right now? You must be on cloud 9 a little bit, or maybe cloud 19. Perhaps?
Yeah, cloud 19. No, I'm real happy. I mean, the first week's been interesting. I think there's obviously been frustrations that we'll definitely get into at some point in time with the coaching staff that definitely even continued until tonight. And there are obviously big picture issues with this game. This was not a good game for the Ducks tonight. They did not play a good game. They did not deserve to be in this game. This was purely a John Gibson game. But I think taking a step back for it being the opening week and just kind of looking at it from an entertainment perspective and wanting performances from players, and kind of what I've wanted from this year is to see performances from the players that I think can have an impact long-term and be fun players. And I think that that's what we saw tonight with Trevor Zegras. Even though he may not have had the best game ever, he had a good first 2 periods and kind of got shelled a little bit in the third period, but he still was trying stuff, and I think that was fun. And then obviously, I mean, what more can you say about the 3-on-3 overtime goal by Jamie Drysdale that was essentially a Troy Terry doing everything, coming back checking, lifting the stick, making a nice play to exit out of the zone, breaking, then basically going out with the puck, entering the zone with speed, drawing in 2 defenders, doing a nice little toe drag around Johnny Gaudreau to feed Jamie Drysdale. I mean, that right there is exactly why I've been so high on Troy Terry for so long, and it's because he's such a fun player. And the thing about him is he may have a rap of being like soft on the puck or whatever people want to say, or because he's a smaller framed guy, he may not be as good defensively because he hasn't hit, but he's quietly one of the best defensive forwards on the entire team. And
I mean, he might be the best.
Yeah,
like it's between him and maybe 2 other guys.
Yeah,
but it's not a long list.
And the fact that basically that entire play gets set up because of a strong defensive play by him. He strips a guy of a puck. Like, that is not putting him on this level. I'm not trying to do that, but that's a Pavel Datsyuk level play. Is that too much? Too much?
All right. Easy there, Jake.
No,
Easy there.
I just said I'm not putting him on that level. I'm just saying, like, it's that style of play right there.
No, I actually tend to agree with you on that. I just know people are going to immediately push back on comments like those. But that is the kind of style, is a great two-way player who also has great offensive skill. I mean, I think you kind of undersold this play a little bit, because Terry makes a great play with the poke check to break up the play with Noah Hannafin cutting in, and then puts the puck between Sean Monahan's skates in the in his own defensive zone, which is like a highlight reel move, and then marches down the ice, and really cerebral play to keep that puck loaded on his forehand and to really sell that he may still end up shooting this puck. And that buys him enough time for Johnny Gaudreau to overcommit. He has to respect that shooting option, and Jamie Drysdale is just wide open, and so he slides it over to him, and Drysdale bangs it home. Perfect finish, and that wins the game for the Ducks. So I think, to your point though on Terry and the rap that he gets as a defensive player, I think it's because he does a lot of his work with his stick. If you watch Troy Terry defend, it's a lot of, stick lifts. It's a lot of poke checks. It's a lot of just kind of crafty plays, swashbuckling with that stick. You're not going to see him lay the body and get himself out of position and overcommit. And I think that's why for the more old school types, you may not think of him as this standout defensive presence, but that's exactly what he is. That's what the metrics say. So yeah, there's your Troy Terry love, everybody. We're getting it out of the way here early.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's absolutely warranted tonight with that play.
Yeah, and play him more. I mean, he was one of the lowest forwards for the Ducks in terms of time on ice, outside of the guys that were injured and Nick Delorier. And so I think that this play shows exactly.
Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Max Jones and Mason McTavish, the two guys that got hurt. I mean, the only players that played less than him at 5-on-5 were Max Comtois, Bogru, and Nick Delorier for the guys that didn't get hurt and had to leave the game. And so he should play more. Straight up, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Play him on the penalty kill. Like that
Yeah.
type of play, like, do you not want someone who can lift a guy's stick and that puck gets on a stick? If he's on the PK, no, he's not going to try the between the legs play on Monahan there to get it out of the zone. If he's on the PK, he's going to put that off the boards and get it out, but you have to be able to lift the stick to do that. And so it's such a smart and heady play, and it's something that I think it's so important to focus on and why he should be used in more situations when he hasn't been. And so,
yeah. And the Ducks are really married to the idea of playing Bogru on the penalty kill, and it's just like,
Nick Delorier. Why is Nick Delorier out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's because those guys look more like penalty killers. It's the way that they play that I think just, again, goes more with that old school mentality. Anyway, we'll have some more chances to talk about that. Let's just do a quick recap of the game, though.
Yep, go for it.
I feel like I've forgotten how to do this.
Yeah,
it's been so long.
How many games in a row did we do with this? We did like 2 or 3 seasons.
Oh man,
it was a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. There's quite a few of these in the back pocket. I mean, the biggest news, though, and this is actually probably where we should start, is the news leading up to this game. That after the Ducks' disastrous loss on Friday against the Minnesota Wild, where they gave up a goal with 8 seconds left in the game, with the fourth line out on the ice. Really just a terrible effort, I thought, from the Ducks on Friday against Minnesota. Just totally outplayed. And, we're kind of lucky to be in that position to take it to overtime late in the game, a little bit like today. And so after that game, I was pretty vocal about this, at least on Twitter, that, look, the Ducks and Dallas Eakins, really the decision-making in that game for Derek Grant and Greg Patterin to be out there in key situations, particularly Derek Grant, to once again lead all Ducks forwards in ice time. Like, that should never happen.
No.
Derek Grant is a fourth liner. Even if you think he's a good fourth liner, you will agree, or at least I hope that you would agree, that he should not lead the team forwards in ice time. That's crazy land. And that's exactly what happened. And he was also way up there the game before against Winnipeg. And so it just didn't make sense how Dallas Eakins and this coaching staff was utilizing him. And lo and behold, Jake, the next day, the tweet comes out from Elliot Friedman that the Ducks had placed Greg Patterin and Derek Grant on waivers. I almost fell out of my chair when I saw that. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so surprised to see that news. I never thought I'd see the day where the Ducks would actually hold Derek Grant accountable for his lack of performance, because I'm assuming that's the only reason they did it. There were no corresponding moves. They just put him on waivers.
We shouldn't forget, I looked this up when it happened. He was signed to the 3-year contract 1 year ago. It was October of 2020 when he was signed to a 3-year contract. 1 year ago was when the Ducks gave him 3 years. Like, this is not a new deal. This is not like
what does this remind you of?
Like, Adam Henrique, at least you could say it was like 2 or 3 years ago when they gave him that deal, because he signed the extension during the season prior to it kicking in. So even in year 2, he signed it a year and a half or 2 years prior. Not 1 year basically before that. And yeah, I was basically on my way to brunch for my wife's birthday and get text from you and get text from a friend of the show who's in the Twitch chat right now, Tyler Tennell, saying, what is happening? And I'm seeing these trying to figure out why am I getting bombarded with text messages, and had to very quickly try to understand what happened as I was after I parked.
Wow. Just taking time away from your precious brunch to react to the news. Well, it was a shock because, again, Derek Grant, I mean, he was the most used forward. He's been a mainstay for Dallas Eakins in his entire tenure as a go-to penalty killer, as a matchup center even. I mean, think about how crazy that sounds when you look at his numbers and the fact that the Ducks have been outchanced, outscored, outshot by significant margins with him on the ice. So it was just a complete shock. But also, on the flip side, the correct move from the Ducks. That's what, they've talked about accountability. They've talked about veterans needing to own up to their bad performances. And I mean, that's essentially putting your money where your mouth is, because you signed Derek Grant to that contract. And now by putting him on waivers, you're essentially saying we're okay with losing him for absolutely nothing in return.
Yeah.
After having signed that deal. So I was
Well,
impressed by the
you
boldness of that move.
you put out the tweet that really that hit the nail on the head. That Dallas Eakins played this guy the most minutes out of any Ducks forward or Ducks center in the prior game, and then he's put on waivers for anyone to claim for free, and no one took him. Maybe that shows you something about the thought process of Dallas Eakins in terms of how he distributes ice time, and that maybe having a player that no one else wants for free as the guy that you're giving the most minutes to is probably not a good decision long term, and maybe you're missing something here.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's my point that I was making was, well, if what the pro Grant crowd says is true, that Derek Grant is this excellent, two-way force, and that he's a matchup guy who's a face-off ace, then why did nobody else want him? Not one. Nobody else wanted him. And so I think that just says everything you need to know. And I don't think it's about his contract. His contract isn't really prohibitive.
No, it's 1.5 mil. If you wanted to get him and put him back on waivers and he wasn't claimed, you could bury him and have, it's like $200K remaining on your cap. It's negligible.
Right. And I mean, sure, it is early in the season. Maybe teams aren't looking to add centers yet. But look, again, if he's that valuable, someone will want him. That is the theory. And I think that the theory was disproven.
Yeah.
So then waivers clear on Sunday, as we found out, as you and I were sipping on.
I had one more point that I wanted to make about okay. Derek Grant. One kind of prevailing thought that I think both you and I have had on this almost felt like management taking away one of Dallas Eakins' tools. And maybe the fact that he played the most minutes in that game, I feel like if this hadn't happened, Derek Grant would have still been in the lineup and still played significant minutes tonight. And he very well might be in the lineup again tomorrow because he was not removed from the roster. He's still in the roster. He still can play.
Ducks had injuries tonight.
Yeah. So. If Jones and Steele can't play, then Jones and McTavish can't play, then Steele and Grant will be in the lineup tomorrow, which is fine. Mm-hmm. Like if he's the 13th forward, 14th forward, it's not the end of the world. But this almost felt like it was management kind of stepping in and saying, we need to take away this player from you because you clearly don't know how to manage him and manage your roster with him in there. And I think that while it's a minor thing and while it's not this big change that's going to help impact the future of the franchise, this goes along with what Bob Murray told all the beat writers about starting the rebuild and kind of that change has to happen. And that's what this is. This is a minor thing, but it goes in line with it. It's finally a step in the right direction, I think, that pushes them towards a rebuild. Understanding wasting a roster spot on Derek Grant is not useful for this team long term. What does he, genuinely, what does he do for this team that helps them long term?
He kills penalties.
And
I don't know if that helps long term.
Is Derek Grant playing better? And neither of us are high on that high on Sam Steele. But is Derek Grant playing better than having Sam Steele play for the long term outlook of this franchise?
Well, that's the thing. You'd at least rather see what Steele can do than just see what you already know what Grant's going to be. So yeah, I mean, it felt like they were taking Eakins' favorite toy away and saying, nope, you don't get to play with this anymore.
Yep. Now, and also pattern going out allows Mahura to come in.
So the pattern thing has actually gotten weirder the more I've thought about it. So Greg Pattern,
hit me with it.
He made the team out of camp. He made the team surprisingly. We thought that, he made it over Jacob Larson. Simon Benoit didn't make it. Cody Curran didn't make it. And keep in mind that Greg Pattern is a right-handed shot, and the Ducks were playing him on the left side on the third pairing. And Dallas Eakins talked about this today in his media availability. He said that he felt bad for Pattern, that they basically put him in a bad spot playing on his off wing. And it's like, this sounds like a similar situation to things we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a fine move by the coach trying to take some of the heat off of the player. But Pattern looked awful. He looked absolutely terrible against Minnesota. He got burned multiple times off
he got burned so bad by Bukestad in that Minnesota game.
So I think waiving him, and he actually went down to San Diego, Grant didn't, but waiving him is the correct decision. But it begs the question, if Dallas Eakins knew that was such a tough spot for him, if he knew that playing his off wing was this going to be this challenge for a guy who, by the way, has bounced around a little bit, whose numbers are just, I mean, they're not great when you look at what how he impacts play on ice. If you look at the last 3 years of his career, so if he knew all of that, then why was he on the team? Like, why was he put in this position in the first place? It's a little baffling. I mean, I don't fully trust that what he said is actually like the whole story.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually help the narrative.
Especially when you have a guy that in Josh Mahura, who is someone drafted by this franchise, is a guy that you would want to get a look at, get him more NHL experience, so he can potentially maybe become a second pairing defenseman, you would hope, and is a left-handed shot defenseman, so he's not being played out of position. Like, this isn't that hard. I don't understand. This is, I guess, the overarching take with Dallas Eakins is, why does everything have to be made so difficult? Like,
you really got to do these mental gymnastics to
not
rationalize
it doesn't have to be difficult. Play your best players the most minutes. Play your worst players the least amount of minutes. Play your defenseman on the right side of the ice. Don't play him on their offsides. Pick your defenseman that's coming up in the lineup and put him, and he plays on the side that you need. Like, the puzzle pieces fit so easily. You don't need to jam a square peg into a round hole just because you want to. Sometimes that square peg is the right move, even if for whatever reason you trust the round peg that, or the square, whatever the analogy that I'm going for at this point. I was gonna try to make it even further with a jagged one that is not great, that has traveled, seen a lot of times.
Really flexing your structural engineering.
There you go.
There.
Seen a lot. It's seen a lot of things, and that's what Greg Pateryn is compared to Josh Mahura. So. Yeah, it's I mean, Hardcore Lucha is telling me to stop making sense for real. Like, this isn't hard. Like, it really isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't rocket science, and I don't know why Dallas Eakins has decided to treat it that way.
But to management's credit, though, they are clearly wise to what's going on.
Yeah.
And they are not allowing it to continue.
The Solomon effect, maybe?
Maybe it's Jeff Solomon. You know, we've heard Bob Murray say that he likes the way that, you know, because we know Jeff Solomon is a big analytics proponent, and we know that, well, at least that's what we've heard. Like, we don't actually know how he works day to day, but that's what we've heard. We have to put some stock in that. And Bob Murray has said he likes the way that Solomon communicates it, and that's a big factor for him. And look, the stats certainly don't paint a bright picture of either Grant or Pateryn. And if we are to believe that Solomon uses those and looks at them, then maybe this was like kind of a test with Grant. It's like, hey, okay, I am not in favor of this player being high usage, so go ahead and play him as much as you want, see what happens, and then get back to me. And it's like, well, here's the result. And I think now Solomon had a pretty good case.
Yeah, I do. I think you're kind of spot on there. This felt like they gave Dallas Eakins the leash to play the guys he wanted to for the first two games.
It feels like
of the
Moneyball.
Season.
It feels like the movie Moneyball, right? Where Billy Bean takes away a player that, you know, he has that big old tiff with his manager. I don't know if you've seen that movie or not.
It's been a long time. I think I saw it when it came out, but I do not remember it that in
People will know. People that have seen Moneyball will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's what this felt like. Now, to finally bring this back to tonight, no Pateryn, no Derek Grant, and a very interesting lineup that, dare I say it, felt close to optimal for where this Ducks team should be.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a first line of Henrique, Zegras, Raquel, Comtois, Getzlaff, Terry, McTavish, Lindstrom, Silverberg, Delorier, Grew, Jones, and then Mahura draws in for Pateryn's spot on that third pairing next to Kevin Shattenkirk, and then Gibson in net, which is a big one, by the way, because Gibson suffered an injury in Game 1 against Winnipeg, was ran into by Andrew Kopp. Looked like maybe it may have been his knee. It's funny because Brian Hayward on the broadcast tonight said a couple times like something about a bruise, and I don't know if he meant to say that or if that's what actually happened, but clearly some kind of issue with Gibson there. But Anthony Stolarz, by the way, looked really good against Minnesota. Was pretty much the only reason. He was pretty much the only reason that the Ducks even got to where they did, to where they had a chance to go to overtime. And so the Ducks getting really strong goaltending to start the season because Gibson was great again tonight.
Yeah.
And so to just kind of fly through this recap here in the first period, you know, it felt like the Ducks were, I mean, once again, you know, starting off a little bit on the wrong foot. If you look at the stats, the Flames controlled shot attempts, controlled scoring chances. I mean, they led 9-3 at 5-on-5 and 3-2 in high danger. However, the Ducks did get out of that period tied. Cam Fowler got a goal, a nice kind of trailing wrist shot. So they managed to get out of that, I guess, slightly unscathed. And then from there, I thought that the second period was probably this team's worst period of the season. I don't know how fair or not that is to say, but they were pretty thoroughly outplayed. I mean, if you look at the shot attempts, the Flames led 26-18. The scoring chances were 12-3 in favor of Calgary, and it just felt like anytime the Ducks had a turnover, the Flames were just charging back on an odd man rush, and the Ducks managed to survive that. I mean, we shouldn't say survive, but they got out of that relatively unscathed. Elias Lindholm, though, picking up the 2-1 marker on what may be one of the worst shifts I've ever seen from a Ducks line. That fourth line on that goal, getting stuck out there, Grew, Jones, and Delorier. And Delorier, with one of the weakest clearing attempts you'll ever see, just tries to kind of fling it off of the boards, get that backspin on it to get it out of the zone. And it just goes absolutely nowhere. Wrong angle. The Flames are able to recover it, and they just get it. I mean, they work it back into the zone ultimately and ends up in the back of the net. So that second period
but Felix,
was
but
pretty
Felix,
discouraging.
I was told by the broadcast that Daryl Sutter was going out of his way to avoid the matchup of the top two lines versus the Bo Grew line, avoiding Bo Grew as the matchup center against his top two lines.
Okay, let's have this conversation right now.
Okay,
I want to get this out of the way. I have a bone to pick.
Pick that bone. Pick that bone. Pick that bone.
Hashtag Grew hype, as I've dubbed it this season. It needs to stop. Like, Bo Grew, I think, is a fine prospect. I think that he shows flashes in these games. He's shown flashes in these games of the potential to become a solid defensive center. The Ducks haven't exactly put him in a position to succeed by putting him on a line with Derek Grant and Nick Delorier. That line, obviously prior to tonight, has been bludgeoned this season at 5-on-5. Expected goals for percentage, 32.37%. So think about that on the flip side, folks. When that line has been out there, the other team is controlling 70% of the on-ice shot quality. Like that, they have just been thoroughly outplayed. And when he's been out there, he's been the Ducks' worst forward in terms of allowing on-ice shot attempts against. And I don't think that that's all on him, by the way. I think that the way that the staff has used him, they've started him like over 30% of the time in the defensive zone. They've put him with Derek Grant and Nick Delorier. They have this conception of him as this guy who can immediately fill that slot, and they're testing their hypothesis, but the results are just not encouraging. And I don't want to make this about how Bo Grew isn't NHL ready or he's awful or whatever. It's just this particular role, it hasn't worked for him, and also they just haven't really set him up to succeed along the way. Now, I also don't think he's looked particularly great. I mean, he's had, like I said, okay moments, but that's really all they've been. Like, I haven't seen a ton of skill. I think his skating is, I mean, it's not like a weakness, but it's not really a strength.
I think
either.
He's a fine fourth line center in the NHL right now. If you put him with guys more defensively responsible fourth liners to go along with him. If, for instance, he was centering, let's say, Sam Steele and Max Jones, I think that's a perfectly fine and acceptable fourth line. But when you pair him with guys, for instance, like he had been the last two games, like Nick Delorier and Derek Grant, who are black holes for both offense and defense, they're absolutely god awful. It's not going to be successful. And even tonight tonight's a little bit of a different story, I think, partially due to the fact of
weird one
with injuries. Yeah. But even when it was Delorier, Grew, Jones, the numbers weren't great. And I've had up on the screen, by the way, throughout all of this, kind of the game recaps, both from Money Puck and from Natural Stat Trick. So go support them. Great stat sites. But the Jones, Grew, Delorier, I mean, granted, only in 425, they had no expected goals for point. Granted, not a lot of expected goals against in 0.09, but still absolutely zero expected goals for, one shot attempt for, and 6 against. So not exactly a pretty outcome for that line. And so it's just not a good look right now. And I think that if you're going to do this to him and play him on the fourth line, you need to give him support players that can really help him, not put him with guys who are essentially just poor defensively. And it just comes down to essentially the thought process of the coaching staff. And we've talked about this in depth at various points in time, honestly, about essentially that Derek Grant, just because he's kind of a bigger body and he hasn't really even hit that much, and just because he's good at faceoff doesn't mean he's good defensively. Just because Nick Delorier skates around a bunch and hits guys doesn't mean he's good defensively. You could even argue with Nick Delorier, he's worse defensively because of that, because you can't hit a guy if you have the puck. So you need to give him support. And so I think you're spot on with he's being put in a position to fail.
Yeah, and that's why I don't. It's weird because on one hand, I think that the coaching staff's view of what Gru is or what he could be, it might not be wrong. Like, he may actually be as good as they think, as good as this franchise has advertised, because, oh boy, have they advertised it at every opportunity during the season on the broadcasts and in their comments. But the problem with that is it's overshadowed by their completely inaccurate assessments of Grant and Delorier.
You know what I forgot about now? I'll keep going. Sorry.
Just to round that out, I was just going to say, we might not even know anything about Gru so far, like just beyond the eye test, because I don't know how much stock we can put in these numbers. But I will also say the numbers are the numbers. Like, it's the same thing with Drysdale last year. It's like, yeah, we have this idea of this player and he may be great, but the facts are the facts and they're just not super encouraging. It's a small sample. We don't want to go overboard with it, but there's been a lot of hype around Gru. And I think it's important to point out like what the just totally unbiased data points have to say. You were saying.
So I've been messing around as you've been talking on the screen, distracting people as you're talking, with the RAPM charts from Evolving Hockey.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot that Derek Grant breaks the axis negatively.
Yeah, he does.
in shot attempts against. I forgot that he was that bad, where you have to change the y-axis in standard deviations to 4 to be able to see just how bad Derek Grant is. Like, he's been that bad at bleeding shot attempts against. Yeah, but
matchup center.
So yeah, okay. Getting back to how we got to this point, talking about the matchup, and so we had just gotten through what would have been the second goal for the Calgary Flames.
Yep. So now bring it back. Let's just finish out this recap, because this is, I think, now the fun part begins. I would say I still don't think that the Ducks had a strong third period. I thought that they looked a little sharper. Overall, I thought that there was a little more glimmer of offense in this period, at least from an eye test perspective. The Ducks still got badly outshot attempted 18-9. Same thing, outscoring chance. I don't know if that's a word. They picked up their most scoring chances of the game in that period, though, with 5. And managed to muster a little more offense than they had showed up to that point. And really, it's the fact that they managed to survive. They killed some penalties. Bo Gru being out there with Isaac Lundestrom, and I thought they looked okay. It was interesting because the Ducks' penalty kill was so passive. Like, they were just
really passive.
They were allowing Calgary to work, and you could almost see the wheels turn their head like mid-shift. Like, okay, we should actually start pressing up a bit more. It's funny because that's what Calgary was doing to Anaheim in the first period. The Ducks were struggling on the power play because Calgary was giving them no time or space, and that was actually at one point Calgary was out-chancing Anaheim while it was on the power play, which is not really what you want. But on the equalizer, so after Anaheim manages to survive that storm, I got to say, where this all starts to me is in the defensive zone. Really strong work from Josh Mahura, winning battles down low, making plays, breaking up a rush from Calgary, and then just takes a hit to make a play. The puck comes to him along the wall. He gets slammed, but he manages to just kind of touch it up the ice, gets it up to Raquel, and then they just work their way into the offensive zone. Henrique stops up as he crosses the blue line, dishes it off to Raquel, and just a perfect shot from Raquel. Beautiful release. Like, Rickard Raquel has one of the nicest releases in the NHL. Doesn't mean he's one of the, he's going to score the most goals in the NHL, but just from a stylistic standpoint, he's got a nice shot to see. It's just so fluid.
Yeah.
It's got that nice long follow through. It was great to see. Low blocker, and that would tie the game up with 7 minutes left.
And I think kind of what this period showed from the Ducks is, I think they allowed more chances against, which is kind of shown when you're looking at expected goals with 1.33 expected goals against. But I think even though their expected goal for total wasn't significantly higher than other periods of time at 0.53 versus 0.54 in the second period, I think that they did a good job of getting up on the rush, and that doesn't always reflect in shot attempts with like Zegras.
No.
I mean, Zegras tried to basically fake a between the legs pass.
How do you feel about that, by the way?
I absolutely love it.
I had people saying to me, "Oh, too fancy, should have
I
shot
don't
it."
care. Who cares?
Well, okay, but take your entertainment cap off for just half a second. So that play, Trevor Zegras comes in on the wing, and I think he had Comtois on the left side, or maybe Henrique. Either way, it doesn't totally matter. But he goes between the legs to fake the passing option to try to get Gaudreau to bite, and then he goes for the pass on his backhand. And I think it actually did work. I think he got Gaudreau to go down, but then he just failed to execute the pass after that.
Yeah.
So I think that people always want to see a shot there if it doesn't work out, because they assume that a shot, even if it goes in the goalie's chest and has absolutely no chance of going in, that's a better outcome. I think Trevor Zegras having the confidence to make the play that he thought was going to have the highest chance of success, like that's what you want to see out of him. You don't want to take that out of his game.
Here's the thing. It depends on the player, and depends on the situation, depends on a lot of things. I think with it being Trevor Zegras, first off, sports are entertainment. Like that is first and foremost here in terms of understanding my opinion on this situation. Sports are entertainment. Players out there having fun, doing things like this, both successfully and unsuccessfully, is better for the game than it is hurtful for the game. Zegras trying a Michigan goal again, or Michigan attempt again, and almost scoring is better for hockey than not, because one day he's gonna score. What if he scores on or sets up this goal?
He's already tried it twice now.
No, but
he may be up to 3 times.
If he sets up this goal right here with the between the legs fake, and like that's on a highlight reel, and kids are going to be trying that. This is the stuff that Patrick Kane does. This is stuff that people do for highlight reels that are just insane, that live on. And granted, you have to execute them at a certain point in time, but with that being said, it's entertainment, so why not if you can do it? And I think it depends on the player. Like, if that was Max Comtois, I would say just shoot it, because this is an issue that, I mean, maybe if we just want to kind of dive into other players as we're going through this game, Max Comtois has had an issue where he has not been shooting the puck enough this season. He hasn't, and that was a big concern coming off of last season, where if you looked at his numbers, he did not shoot the puck a significant amount last season, and a lot of his success was derived from a high shooting percentage, from being in good spots, getting set up by Trevor Zegras, a lot of things like that aren't necessarily completely.
He is a good finisher.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's like a 20% finisher throughout the course of an 82-game season.
I mean, no one really is.
No, and so my thing in the offseason for him was he was going to need to up his shooting volume, and the issue is he's passing up golden opportunities to shoot. And so with a guy like Comtois, where that's where he's going to make his money, is shooting the puck, I would be concerned with him trying to make a pass that is compared to shoot. Trevor Zegras, on the other hand, is a guy that's going to set up plenty of goals for other people. I'm completely fine with it. And so maybe you could say it's a double standard I'm having here, and sure, fine, that I am.
Well, different players, different skill sets, different strengths and weaknesses. And I think to round out on Zegras, that's his bread and butter. He is
deception,
a born playmaker.
Deception.
That's his elite game-breaking skill. Like, there's nothing wrong with him leaning into that. We know he has a great shot too, but I think that's ultimately what's going to allow him to be a difference maker in the NHL, is his passing ability.
Max Comtois at 5-on-5 had 3 shot attempts tonight. And now, granted, 2 of them were in high danger spots, which allowed him to lead the team lead the team in individual expected goals. But I mean, 3 shot attempts is too low. What's up?
It's got to go up. He's got to shoot more, and he's had. I think the worst thing. I mean, okay, let's save that for later. Let's get through this game.
Also, good side note on this game, as we're going to keep going, Trevor Zegras had 7 shot attempts in this game.
8 in all situations.
Oh, okay, yeah. 5-on-5, he had 7 shot attempts. Like, Zegras was not afraid to shoot the puck tonight. It had to, because it had to.
Yeah, I think it did. And he was taking shots from bad angles. He was taking shots that maybe, didn't have the highest chance of success, but he was getting pucks on net. And it's kind of funny that, I know that people are frustrated he didn't shoot there. I think he could have scored if he had shot, but it's the fact that people are kind of overlooking that he played a pretty solid game, like just from that kind of old school perspective of, hey, get shots on net, get pucks in deep. He was breaking up plays down low defensively. I actually really liked his two-way effort tonight, and just kind of the basics of his game were solid. And I think that's what gives him the confidence to try crazy stuff, because and by the way, those moves, like the between the legs, the Michigan, that's actually not crazy stuff to him. That's stuff that he knows he can pull off. So I think when people see a guy like that trying it, they think, oh, he's way out of pocket. This is just too crazy, too fancy. For a guy like him, that may actually be a high success rate play. So don't just write it off because it's not something you see other guys do.
Yeah, exactly. And
anyway,
I mean,
there's my rant.
Like you said on Zegras shooting the puck, 7 shot attempts, 4 at 5-on-5. The next closest Duck at 5-on-5, there were a bunch of them had 3. So he had 4 shot attempts more than the closest guy. And so that goes to show you just how much he was looking to shoot the puck tonight and get the pucks on net.
You know who was shooting the puck a lot tonight? Ryan Getzlaff.
Yeah.
Who may actually fulfill the promise this season of shooting more.
Yeah.
I think he may actually do it because he's been firing pucks on net.
So
anyway, let's finish this recap though, and then I think we may have to take a break.
Yes.
But yeah, so I mean the Ducks tie it up, and they once again I would call it hanging on to get to overtime. I think one thing that I know infuriated you is that with 8.3 seconds left, or maybe 7.3, offensive zone draw, 18.3 seconds. The Ducks have a chance to win the game, really. I mean, they have a chance to win the draw and try to get a chance. They put out the third line, essentially, with, I think, 2 centers. They put out Grew.
They put out
Lundestrom,
and Silverberg.
Yeah, and you have issues with that decision.
Here's my issues. The logic that they would give would be, we just lost a game in the final 10 seconds. We don't want that to happen again, blah, 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 blah. Here's the issue with that. If this was a defensive zone draw, sure, I get it. Do that, mitigate the risk, do whatever you need to do. You have an offensive zone draw. Put out your best offensive players. Give yourself a chance to win the game in regulation. This is a divisional opponent. If you really do want, as a coaching staff, because at the end of the day, management has said about the rebuild, but that's a management decision, not a coaching decision. Coaches are going to try to win every game. And so if you're really trying to win every game, put out Zegras, put out Raquel, put out Getzlaff if you want. Put out your skilled players. Put out the guys that can score a goal. Like Lundestrom, Grew, Silverberg is putting them out there to play for 3-on-3 overtime. Now, granted, they got 2 points, but this is the situation.
It's a very risk averse move.
It's a very risk averse move, and the fact that you're playing, like I said, a divisional opponent. If you really do think that maybe you have a chance, which you and I both agree is not actually the case, but maybe you have a chance of getting the third spot, pushing for that 2 points where they can't get one is the way to go here. And so instead of you getting 2 points and Calgary getting none, Calgary got 1 point. So it's a 1 point difference. Like, this is not going to like make or break the season for either of these teams. And so it's the accumulation of these decisions. And at the end of the day, the impact of that decision is not huge. Like, that's not going to necessarily, I don't think that with 30 seconds left, offensive zone draw, the Ducks were going to allow them to come down and score. I don't necessarily think the Ducks would have scored either if they put out those players. But it's more so the mentality and the philosophical issues that I have with the coaching staff, and that they're trying to not lose games instead of trying to win games.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it. I mean, I understand it, and I think you do too, which is that they just lost in the dying seconds of last game, and they just didn't want that to happen again. I do think, though, that, it's a little too risk-averse. And also, I mean, I agree with anything you said. I don't think we need to totally belabor that. But I don't have a huge issue with it. I see it more as like suboptimal.
Yeah,
it's not a critical failure.
Here's the thing. There's only one of they didn't put Delory out there, I guess, if you want to say. They could have had a worse option out there if they would have replaced Silverberg with Delory, but that is one player difference. So
and how much better is Grew than Delory right now? We don't know.
True.
So but anyway, so Ducks, they get through those 18 seconds. They don't botch it again like they did against Minnesota on Friday. And then to overtime we go. Ducks, I mean, really for most of that overtime, they controlled the play. They had the puck on their stick, and we talked about it off the top, but the great defensive work by Terry to get it out of the zone with a highlight reel move. gets it all the way down across the ice to Drysdale, slams it home. And by the way, Drysdale in his post-game comments said that the first thing he said to Terry after they scored was, "That's all you. That's all you." So pretty cool. Drysdale seems like a really good guy.
Yep.
Yeah, just a feel-good win. I mean, I know that we have our quibbles with how this went for them, the suboptimal decisions, but I think big picture, rebuild, long-term outlook for this team, there were still positives that occurred. I mean, you talked about Terry and his contributions. Jamie Drysdale getting the game-winning overtime goal is no small feat. Trevor Zegras looking strong.
John
Ricard Raquel.
We haven't talked about. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to say Raquel has 2 goals in 3 games, and I mean, if you want to talk rebuild, like that's not going to hurt his trade value. I mean, the one thing that's a little disheartening is Mason McTavish getting hurt, and I mean, he missed a good chunk of training camp because of an ankle injury. We don't know yet what he actually injured. Maybe he re-aggravated it, but that's not super heartening, I guess. Cam Fowler, by the way, I thought, even though his numbers weren't super pretty,
I mean,
I thought that
he was one of the best forwards from a numbers perspective.
Looked really good.
He was one of the best, or one of the best defensemen. Sorry. Defenseman? Yeah, sorry. Meant to say
he looked really. I thought breaking the puck up, he looked so smooth. He looked so in control. A lot of guys had poor numbers tonight, but I feel like it was kind of a team-wide ailment. Ryan Getzlaff looked awesome as well. But yeah, you were going to say John Gibson.
I was going to say we've kind of we somehow have gone through this entire game talking about everyone except for John Gibson, who quietly, maybe not so quietly, has had an excellent start to the season. I mean, that's kind of the norm for him, I guess, at this point in time. But I mean, he had a 1.63 GSAX in this game, 2.56 GSAX in the first game. So if my math is correct, that's going to be around a 4 GSAX over the course of the first 2 games.
I mean, he looked excellent against Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I thought he was a big reason why they won that game as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's look, that's what you want to see from John Gibson. I would assume Stolarz will be in net tomorrow night or Tuesday night by the time you're listening.
Who knows?
For the back-to-back, but maybe you give Ryan the hot hand.
And so John Gibson, excellent time. I mean, at the end of the day, he's the only reason why they were in this game. I think Anthony Stolarz was excellent in the game on Friday. I think if he's playing in this game is not a Ducks win, though.
Huh, interesting. I thought that – so I actually think that Stolarz may have had – I think that the quality of chances he faced may have actually been more challenging against Minnesota.
I think it was the thing tonight was the quantity of chances.
Yeah, that's the thing is tonight – well, I mean, I think the Wild had over 40 shots as well.
Did they? Maybe I missed
high 30s. But the thing is, tonight, though, it was a different challenge because there were a lot of bodies around the Anaheim net. There were a lot of scrambles. And even though those may not look as challenging as, say, like a 2-on-1 save like the ones that Stolarz was making on Friday, those are still really tough because as a goalie, you're having to stay calm in your net and find the puck in a crowd. So, I mean, both goalies were excellent. And that is maybe the biggest positive.
43 shot attempts against for or shots on goal against for Stolarz against the Wild, 74 shot attempts against. For tonight, it was 43 and 75. XG was 3.63 for Calgary, 3.49 for Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, the Ducks have played some good offensive teams so far.
That's true.
That's one thing we should point out.
It's not going to get any easier tomorrow night.
Nope. It's going to get significantly harder, actually.
Yeah, so we need to get a word in from our sponsor, though, before we continue as we're chugging along on this podcast. So we'll wrap up this game afterwards and get into some more topics and then eventually some questions. So before we do that, this podcast is brought to you by Mac Weldon, one of our favorites. So you're a busy guy or girl. So stop thinking about what to wear and just embrace the radically efficient Mac Weldon Daily Wear System. The Daily Wear System is a selection of clothes rooted in smart design, made with performance fabrics and built to work together. From breathable t-shirts and polos to stylish button-ups and shorts and underwear and beyond, Mac Weldon makes it easy for you to dress for work, leisure, and play, or wherever your summer takes you. So Felix, what are some of your favorite Mac Weldon gear? Because they've been kind enough to send us some stuff over over a year now. I think that they've been a sponsor of the show. Tell us about some of your favorite products. Maybe some that we haven't talked about, because just peel the curtain back. Felix and I hung out yesterday at a brewery for a lot of the day, and Felix was rocking some Mack Weldon gear while we were there.
I actually was. I was wearing Mack Weldon swim trunks, and yeah, you heard that right. I was wearing swim trunks out in public in a brewery, and that's because the Mack Weldon swim trunks. First off, they just look very cool. I have the succulent frond color, which is like kind of a greenish color, kind of tropical vibes. I thought it worked for that day. Super comfortable. I live by the beach and I go swimming fairly regularly, although not as much now with this stupid oil spill. But they're super comfortable, super lightweight, and you can wear them out and about. And honestly, it might not click with people that they're swim trunks because they just look that cool. But the weather is starting to cool down a little bit, especially at night. And I gotta say, I mean, the bread and butter is always going to be the Ace sweatpant for me.
Oh, the best.
Just so comfortable. Not too hot, which is not always the case with sweatpants. They're breathable, and I just love wearing them. I've worked out in them. I go on walks in them. I just am. I'm the usual just desk person in them. They work really well, and I can't really recommend this brand enough. Just super, super comfortable for those that are like me. They're still working from home. They're a very good blend of feeling like, hey, I put on some clothes today, but also not going full bore formal either.
Yeah, the Ace sweatpant, I think it's the bread and butter. It's something the thing I always go back to, owning multiple pairs now. The Ace sweatshirt, also very nice. Basically, any sort of loungewear around the house, Mack Weldon has you covered. And here's the nice thing. All that loungewear looks nice enough where you can go out with it. I've basically on a cold morning, I'll throw on my Ace sweatpants, and they're kind of they're slimmer in a way, and they look nice where I can go out, I can go on a walk, get some coffee, drive to a coffee shop. It's fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. So buy some time this summer, or now as we're in fall and heading into winter, with the Mack Weldon Daily Wear System. For 20% off your first order, visit mackweldon.com/CTP and enter promo code CTP. That's mackweldon.com/CTP, promo code CTP for 20% off. Mack Weldon, radically efficient wardrobing.
Yep, and also their underwear. I mean, they're very comfortable.
Yes.
There you go. All right, folks. So I don't have a ton more to go over with this game. I think that we pretty much covered it. Here's one thing I want to get your thoughts on, though.
Yeah.
So Mason McTavish got hurt tonight, did not return. I mean, he barely played. He scored a goal in his first game. It was an extremely feel-good moment, especially because it almost got taken away.
Yeah.
What is your assessment of him through, I guess, 2.5 games, whatever you want to call it?
I think my assessment is he looks like he belongs in the NHL. Now, granted, it's early. It's 3 games, and so that can quickly change. But he seems like he's the type of skater at 18 years old that, from a development perspective, should be in the NHL, because I'm not sure what there is for him to gain at the CHL level. Like, what is he going to gain from playing against 16 to 20-year-olds where he's bigger than all of them, more skilled than all of them, and is just going to put up a boatload of points? Like, I'm not sure if he gains more from that than playing, 12 to 15 minutes a night, being given opportunities. And so I think that maybe don't expect him to have a breakout offensive season. Like, I don't think the offense is going to be there like he showed in that first game, having a 2-point night. But he seems solid enough where in a third-line depth kind of role, he can be successful. And, I mean, if you look at the line of him, McTavish, Lundestrom, Silverberg, per Money Puck, they're at 58.3 expected goals for so far or percentage on the season. So it's not as if they've been bad together. They've actually been pretty good together. And I think that line works well as a whole because, we talked about it, what was it, the final last Monday when we were talking about it, that Lundstrom and Silverberg are guys that kind of get out in transition, and McTavish, I think, can really support that in a good way and really kind of maybe try to be the finisher, the guy that can drive the net. And I think he almost scored tonight also, getting in the front of the net. Yeah. And so I think he's shown that he's belonged. Maybe you're nervous about the fact that he got hurt. And
well, it's starting to accumulate a little bit, but that could happen anywhere.
Yeah, like if he's in junior, like, sure, the guys are smaller, so maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe that's the logic there for you sending him back. But he's still going to have a target on his back in junior, maybe even more so in junior than in the NHL. Yeah. And so I think it's the right place for him. I think I would keep him up the rest of the year. I mean, because of where he's at. I mean, I guess maybe the only other option, if this was available, that I would prefer to see over him going back to junior would be going over to Europe and playing like in the SHL or something like that. But I'm pretty sure it's hard to get an import player over there at this point in time or this late in the game. So that might be
tough. It's also harder to bring it back.
Yeah.
Because he'd have to play in the second division. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so, that's right. So,
yeah.
So I think that maybe that's out of the door. I wouldn't think going to the Swiss League would make a lot of sense. So I think at the end of the day, if you're looking at all the options available, I think him being in the NHL makes the most sense. Like, you and I both read that article. There was an article put out, I believe it was CJ Turturro. Is that who put it out? About some data about development and the fact that the AHL isn't the best place, and that at some point in time, the best players are in the NHL. So if you want to develop, be in the NHL type of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I do think that with him, the game against Minnesota was pretty rough. If you look at the numbers, like when he was out there, the Ducks got pretty handily outplayed, but that was a team-wide issue. It wasn't just purely him. So I'm not going to read too much into that. I thought that in game one, he was more effective. He was making plays. He was able to kind of do what he wanted out there. And then game two was a lot more of a challenge. I quite frankly didn't really notice him that much in game two. Even watching back, like, it wasn't a standout performance from him. And then tonight, it's unfortunate because I thought he was having his best game so far.
Good. He looked good.
He actually had he already had 2 shot attempts in the game, which was already more than he had in either of the previous games. And that line was really humming, especially in the first period. Like, they were the only line in the bottom 6. So the only line of the 2 that looked at least competent at times. And then, of course, when the injuries started accumulating, everything got jumbled up. But he's shown enough to me where I think, I don't know. I don't know if there's a ton of reason to send him back. I will say the one downside to keeping him up is that he's going to have to be on the wing. Ultimately, he is a center. I do want to see him as a center. I think that he's just not touching the puck a lot right now because he's not the one that's really bringing the puck up ice. And I do think that that's a skill that you want to continue to hone in on for him. And he's not really able to do that right now. He's not getting the reps. And that is maybe the argument for him to go back to junior, because I think he is a little stifled right now. It's not to the same degree as Zegras. I think he's more effective as a winger than Zegras was, but I wish he would have a chance to play at center, because at a certain point you got to get him those reps. You got to get him the ability to touch the puck a lot and to be the one making plays. And it just might not happen if he stays up with the big club all year. And I wonder, long term, is that going to hurt his offensive ceiling, that he's just not getting these chances to be the primary playmaker? Maybe he evolves just from the wing, that his skill is just that overwhelming, but I'm not really seeing it so far, but it's extremely early.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with McTavish has been that everyone said he has such a good shot and is good in transition. So those are things that can be valuable from the wing. I think at the end of the day, I kind of lean towards where you're at. Is I would rather see him at center, because that's the long-term position you want him at. I would prefer to see him at center than having Bo Grew playing on the team at center.
Well, Bo Grew might go back down at some point.
Yeah,
so there is
true.
Maybe he slots in there.
True, but it's like you don't necessarily have to. Like, I mean, let's be real here. The fourth line for the Ducks right now should not be a matchup line. Like, as much as the broadcast crew says it, as much as all that stuff, in reality, they're not. They're just not.
Well, did you already mention the Hayward comment?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I talked about it right after you said the Bo Grew, goal against.
That was golden.
Yeah, it was. But you can use a fourth line and have it be where your younger players are at, and play them in lower minutes against easier competition, and you could have that be a line of McTavish, Steele, and Jones.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And is that so bad, having McTavish, Steele, and Jones as your fourth line with McTavish centering them?
No. Well, because again, they're more like individual. Like, you look at young players in a way as like individual stocks, and you just want to see how they will fare over the course of the season, for good or for bad. You want to find out what you have in these players, and you're just not getting any long-term value from those veteran guys as much as we're being fed a different story.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's something. This is the last thing I want to ask you about before maybe we get into questions, unless you have something else.
I think just maybe briefly saying, so yeah, the scores for the games: Ducks beat the Jets. We probably should
Well,
actually.
no. So I have a topic for you.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Like I have something I want to ask you about.
Go for it then.
Do you buy or sell the narrative that the Ducks power play is just rejuvenated?
I'm happy you brought this up because I was legitimately just about to bring up the fact that we probably should talk about the power play.
No, yeah, that's why I've been itching to ask you about this, because this has been a narrative now that's going strong, is that the Ducks power play is reinvigorated. They interviewed Jeff Ward before the game asking about that. So, do you think it's actually that the Ducks power play is that much better, or what do you make of it?
You want some numbers? Because I got some numbers.
I do.
All right.
I do.
So here's where that. And I think the key thing, and we probably should just say this at the top with all of the numbers we're saying, it's a small sample size. So we're talking this is 2 games, so this does not include tonight's game. I'm on Evolving Hockey. Yeah. So it does not include tonight's game, which granted they scored and they did get some chances, so it may fall in line with this. But the Ducks.
Can we make one thing clear though about tonight?
Yeah.
They scored with like maybe 2 seconds left on the power play, and they were looking awful.
Oh, they had a couple of them, but they did have some chances. So here are the numbers. Last season for the Ducks, and I feel like we said this before, it wasn't a good power play, like no doubt, but it wasn't as bad as the results ended up being. Their expected goals for per 60 ended up at 6.56 expected goals for per 60, which I think was like worse in the league, but not significantly so. So far this season, they're at 13.24 expected goals for per 60. So they're generating essentially double the amount of expected goals per 60. And just so everyone knows, because it's a rate stat, the sample, sure, there's sample size. So as you gain more of it, it can affect it. But they're on the same scale. And so you can do a straight comparison and say, by that rate, the Ducks are doubling their chances on the power play than they were previously.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're looking at Evolving Hockey?
I'm looking at Evolving Hockey right now.
Yeah, so Natural Stat Trick has actually their stats updated after tonight's game. And just to give some context from that perspective, the Ducks are top 5 in all the shot volume metrics. I mean, they're number 4th in the NHL in unblocked shot attempts per 60 at 5-on-4 on the power play. And in terms of expected goals, so different model from the one Evolving uses, but still sheds a little light. They're 6th now at 9.39, right behind the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, their power play right now has the second most expected goals for per 60 per Evolving Hockey's model.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that you look at all of that, and although I think that it hasn't looked pretty at times, particularly tonight, it does feel like they at least have, I hate to use this buzzword, but an identity. Like it looks as though they have an actual plan, or even just a good plan. What I've noticed, so the first unit with Zegras, a lot more passing, a lot more cross-ice movement, and just trying to set up kind of that perfect shot. And then with the second unit, where you've got Fowler and Shattenkirk, they're just blasting away. They're just getting shot on after shot. And I think that that's good because at least you can get right into your sets as soon as the puck drops. Yeah. And so it's worked for them so far. I thought tonight was a little bit of a step back. I know that they scored, but I really don't think they were looking that good.
Just for reference,
and they're going to have to adjust as they see different PK units.
For reference, the best power play in the league last year from an expected goals for per 60 was the Maple Leafs at 8.83 expected goals for per 60 on the power play. So the Ducks are at 13 right now. And so also FYI, so the Ducks power play last year was at 6.56 expected goals for per 60. That was 17th in the league. So even though the results weren't there and they weren't finishing the chances, they were generating the shots and the quality there. It just wasn't going in. And I think part of that has to do with, it was a 56 game season last year. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, so I think the results didn't necessarily reflect where they were at. But with that being said, the actual process is better this year, and the results are better also as a result. So and it's good to see.
I think I think that the results could be even better. I think that one of the frustrations with that first unit is that Max Comtois just hasn't been good on the power play, and it was very apparent on Friday that he was just, I hate to say this, but it just seemed like he was overthinking out there. He was passing up shooting opportunities. He was trying to create passing lanes when they just weren't there, just really forcing the issue and really trying to get a play that just wasn't available to him. And I think where Max Comtois is at his best for him personally is when he's getting shots on net, when he's getting in tight, and when he's keeping things rather simple. There are some guys that you don't say that quite the same, but with him, I think it's particularly true. And they had opportunities to get even better chances. The puck would get on his stick. They would have a nice little buildup, and then he would just botch it. I mean, for lack of a better word, he would just send it to the wrong person or into coverage. Right? It just wasn't working. And tonight, you saw even that again. He at one point he was getting pressured in the offensive zone on the power play, and he just flings it back to absolutely no one in the Duck zone. And John Gibson has to come out to play it, and he has to come out like way far out because it went diagonally. The pass went diagonally. So I don't really know what's going on with Max Comtois so far. I don't know. I don't think that this is like, a death knell or anything like that. I think he's going to be fine, but it's just, I wish that they would take a little bit of the playmaking responsibilities out of his hands.
Yeah.
At least for now, because he's
here's
been
a
a bit of a
question.
weak link.
Here's a question. So if we're maybe looking to modify the power plays, let's say, would you? So the first unit right now is Zegras, Raquel, Getzlaff, Comtois, and Drysdale, right?
Drysdale.
Second unit.
I mean, I have
unit,
the swap for you.
Second unit is Fowler, Shattenkirk, and it was Terry, Henrique. And then who was the final?
McTavish was out there at times. I think Silverberg's been out there too.
Yeah. I think that they took McTavish off the unit and put Terry out there instead.
Yeah,
I think that was the swap tonight.
I would put Henrique in for Comtois in the first unit. I think Comtois can really benefit from watching Henrique work on that unit, because I think that he can fill that role of kind of like that bumper who's just making really simple plays but keeping plays alive and getting shots when they're there. And then at some point you work Comtois back in, because Henrique to me is the archetype that Comtois can fill. But for the time being, if you want it to work, if you want to benefit from these great passes that Ryan Getzlaff and Trevor Zegras are making, then get a guy out there who can keep the chains moving.
Yeah, because it feels like all Max Comtois is trying to do on that power play is stand in front of the net and put a stick there for Trevor Zegras to bank the puck off of, which when it works is great, but if the goalie reads it right, it's an in-tight chance that the goalie has a great read on and has an easy save to make. I
think he's not even doing that right now. I think the problem is he's not doing that. He's trying to be like a playmaker, and he's just not that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's a good swap, and I think that gives Comtois. I mean, you still have that second unit. Yes, they kind of blast the puck, but that actually might work well with Comtois to get him confidence, because there will be rebounds lying around for him to find.
It's going to be a simpler game out there. I think it'll be easier for him to keep up.
Yep.
Just like in terms of reading the play, reading and reacting.
Yeah. Yep.
So. Yeah, there you go. That's kind of, I think, all I've got on the season so far. I mean, do you want to get into questions? I will say that Josh Maher, I thought, looked good tonight.
Yeah, numbers weren't great, but I think that's an overall, like you said, team issue more so than a him issue. I think first game back looked good, had a nice crisp first pass when needed. Did get hemmed in his zone a couple times, which led to those bad stats against. But So here, I got this question. Christian Charbonneau, who's a good friend of the show, patron in Discord a bunch, had a question, so wanted to get it answered. So he said, pod question, if Stolarz continues to play at a high level, how much more expendable does that make Gibson? Also worth noting, Stolarz does have some pedigree as a former second-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it shouldn't really matter, to be honest with you. I think that John Gibson should be fair game for trades regardless, but Stolarz playing well just makes that decision all the more easy to make. But I think that for the front office, it might make it easier, but I would be totally open to trading Gibson regardless of how the other goalie's playing.
Yeah,
hopefully that answers it.
I think so also. I mean, my thing is that, Stolarz shouldn't really impact it at all. I mean, Stolarz is 27, going to be 28 in January. He's not exactly someone that you have for your long-term plan. Maybe if you want to make sure that you have someone in place to play the bulk of the minutes, maybe that makes it easier. But I also think that you could always, in the Gibson trade, get a goalie back. You can get a goalie pretty easily. Look at how easily Colorado was able to get Darcy Kemper. It's not that hard to find one out there, honestly, right now. Not a high-end one, but you can find one to fill that role. So I don't think Stolarz playing at a high level makes it any different. I mean, maybe like you said, from a management perspective, maybe it's easier to communicate that to the fan base saying, hey, we have this guy that's on fire. It makes it easier to move Gibson. And from a
it's
PR
easier to sell.
from a PR perspective, it's easier. I think from an actual roster management perspective, it doesn't do anything though.
I do want to ask you a couple things.
Okay.
Now that they've come to mind. What is your most pleasant surprise of the season so far?
Most pleasant surprise of the season so far. That's a good question. I mean, we're 3 games in, and there are a lot of frustrations with playing time, so that's definitely not it. Which we didn't even really get. We didn't even really get into that. I'm gonna go with Silverberg's play. He really looks good out there. He looks like he's kind of found his game again after having a bit of a rough season last year, and a lot of it, as we kind of come to find out, was due to the hip. And it seems like he's kind of found his form in the off. Yeah, he's found his form in the offense zone. Last year was good defensively, but the offensive zone was really where he fell off, which makes sense if you have a hip issue. A big part of the game is transition now, and if you have a hip injury, that really limits your ability to get yourself up to speed. Defensively, he's just such a smart player that he's gonna be able to thrive no matter what. But you're able to see what he can do in the offensive zone still, even as he's entering it or is in his 30s, and he's a good player. And I think it's good to see. It's nice to see after the fact that we heard that he had hip injuries for a year and a half basically, and finally was able to get surgery to fix it. So let's go with that as my pleasant surprise.
Okay. I will stay on the veteran train, and I will go with Ryan Getzlaff as a pleasant surprise because I think he's been one of the Ducks' very best players so far. I mean, if you don't count the goalies, I think that you can make a case that he's been their most reliable player so far. And check this out, Jake. He leads all skaters in individual shot attempts per 60 at 5-on-5.
Damn.
The Ryan Getzlaff shooting the puck is happening. I don't know if you want to make a hashtag out of that, but it's happening. Will it continue? Will it hold up? I have no clue.
I thought even Getsy Snot Rockets. Getzlaff Snot Rockets. There you go. I don't know. Come on. You told me to come up with something. That. I came up with something.
It's a little grotesque, but yeah, credit to you. But he has he's looked like he's, I don't want to say turning back the clock, but he's adding dimensions to his game. He looks really solid defensively, and I'm already seeing people on Twitter or like on radio shows in Canada saying that will Ryan Getzlaff finish the season in Anaheim? And I haven't even thought that far ahead, to be honest with you, but if he keeps playing this well, what do you do with him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. Here's going to be my bold take right now. You know, let's do this before we get into the rest of the questions from the Twitch chat. We'll come to you soon. I see the questions coming. Mm-hmm. Best Ducks forward so far this season? Troy Terry.
Yeah, you're on that train. I don't know if I totally buy it.
53% expected goals for percentage tonight. Was also I believe the only Ducks forward above 50% expected goals for percentage so far on the season. So granted, that first game didn't play that much, was still very good for the Ducks during that game. So I'm taking a quick look to be able to give the numbers on that. Yeah, Troy Terry was at 54.24 expected goals for percentage in that first game. This game also well above 50, and the only, I believe, Ducks forward above 50, or Max Comtois also at 50.28. Those were the only 2 Ducks forwards above 50%. So Troy Terry, best Ducks forward, play him more.
Mm-hmm. And I guess just what's your overall? This is something I've been thinking about a little bit. What's your overall assessment of Trevor Zegras so far? Because he doesn't have any points.
He doesn't have any
kind
points.
Of making the rounds a little bit.
Yeah. He doesn't have any points. I think the issue that's happened is that he just hasn't been played enough. And I think that that's the biggest thing here. And sure, the broadcast once again parroted the idea of that. Of course he's not going to play. There were so many penalties, except you can, like, it's such a disingenuous argument because we can look at stats at 5-on-5 and see that he still didn't play at 5-on-5. Tonight he did. And I think tonight, hopefully this is a sign of things to come. He played significant amount of ice time, both at 5-on-5 and in all situations. At 5-on-5, he had, 1452, which was second on the team for centers behind Ryan Getzlaff. So Getzlaff, Zegras, your 2 top centers for minutes, completely fine. All situations, 1830 once again, right behind Ryan Getzlaff at 1843. So I think that tonight's a much better sign, but obviously injuries, lots of things kind of impacting that. The previous 2 games, and especially that first game, he didn't play enough. Like, he just didn't, and the coaching staff has been treating him with kids' gloves and doing what they did early on in the early on when he came up on wing, and not putting him out there for defensive zone draws, doing all this stuff to essentially baby him. And instead, by the end of the season, when he was having his most success with on the actual Ducks and putting up points almost every game, he was doing that because they were just letting him go out and play and playing him the most minutes. And so I think a part of it is that. I think that's honestly a big part of it. And I think we saw tonight, 7 shot attempts, 4. If he has that type of night again where he has 7 shot attempts, 4, he's going to find the back of the net. Like, that's just going to happen. Yeah. Like, just from the pure volume of that, he's a guy that should be shooting, I don't know, 10% is where I probably put him at. If he gets another 7 shot attempt, 5 shots on goal game, he should score a goal. Like, at this point in time.
Yeah.
And so I think overall he's been fine. It's 3 games. He hasn't scored, so what? I think maybe the only thing that maybe you would want to look at is his line making the best use of him? Is having him with Raquel and Henrique a good use of his game? Because
I am starting to question Henrique on that.
Yeah, because here's the thing with Trevor Zegras, and it's so obvious when you watch him. He's not a zone control player. That's not where his game is meant to be. He's
a rush player.
He's not meant to have the puck in the corner, curl around, and that type of stuff. With time and space on the power play, it works, but he's a guy that needs to get out into the neutral zone, transitioning into the offensive zone with speed. And that's not Adam Henrique's game. That's not Adam Henrique's game. That can be Rickard Raquel's game. Rickard Raquel plays that type of game. The other Duck forward who is fantastic on the rush is Troy Terry. And we saw, and for some reason, everyone keyed in on the Comtois Zegras aspect of that instead of looking at the Zegras Terry side of it.
I think that's what actually made it work last year.
Yeah. And so it's funny to me that hasn't really been questioned that much. And that's partially on us for not really keying in on that. But to me, it's a pretty easy swap. Take out Adam Henrique, throw Rickard Raquel on the left side, or throw Troy Terry on the left side, whichever one you want to do. Have that line that's your rush line. Put Adam Henrique with Comtois and Getzlaff, and that's your cycle line. Like, they're 2 very distinct lines that do 2 very distinctly different things and can beat you in different ways. And it's how you want to build your lineup.
Yeah. I think that he needs someone. The other reason to have Terry on that line is he needs someone that's going to go win puck battles. That's going to go get the puck back when it
Terry
gets dumped in deep.
Very good in the corners tonight, by the way.
Exactly. I saw that, and I think that he. You know, it's funny. This is a little bit of a throwback. A guy who would have been really good on the line with Zegras would have been Andre Kasha if he was still on the team.
Yeah.
Just a guy who's going to be a puck hound, who's going to just throw the puck on net every opportunity. And then with Terry specifically, cerebral enough to, I think, keep up with Zegras and keep up with those great passes. But be able to get control back of the puck. I feel like when they dump it in, or when a defenseman dumps it in, they're not a great forechecking line. And I think that's you're leaving money on the table with Zegras if you're not getting him the puck as much as you possibly can. And that's going to be part of his own apprenticeship is being able to win those battles in the forecheck and not purely relying on getting out in transition, getting out on the rush. He's going to have to develop that cycle element to his game. But yeah. I do think that Troy Terry would be kind of like the perfect addition. Another guy that I think could work would be Jakob Silverberg, just because he brings what these things I'm talking about to a lesser degree, more so on the forechecking aspect. But I think they need a bit more of a puck hound on that line. And I think Adam Henrique, he's just a tricky guy to place. But I think Henrique would work better, I think, next to Getzlaff and Terry. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I don't really know what you do there. It's a bit of a quagmire either way. But I think something may have to move on that line. Their numbers have been okay. Like, they're playing fine, and maybe our perception is skewed a little bit because they just haven't scored yet. But there may be a little shakeup that has to happen there at some point.
Yep.
And we're saying that after they were fine tonight, by the way.
Yeah, it's just more so you kind of look at the way they played, and you're like, something should change. Something has to be modified slightly. I mean, Rickard Raquel scored, but there are better ways to optimize this lineup to get more offense out of it. I mean,
I think the idea is if you want to maximize Trevor Zegras, you may need to get someone who can work with him a little better.
At the end of the day, 1.51 expected goals for is just not enough.
Yeah,
Like
you can do better.
yeah, and I think that's where I'm coming from with this. And I mean the Ducks just kind of, and granted, the first game didn't have a whole lot of 5-on-5 ice time, almost a full period of special teams play with only 39-32 at 5-on-5, but they were at 1.07 expected goals for in that game against the Wild, 0.89 expected goals for. And then against the Flames, 1.51 expected goals for at 5-on-5. So they've struggled at 5-on-5 to create offense. So this is where something has to give, something has to change to be able to create more offense. And so that's I think the biggest thing.
So by the way, update on Mason McTavish, leg injury, and so ruled a lower body injury, and it just doesn't. I mean, it doesn't sound awesome. Just reading some of the comments here, but it definitely is that. I mean, we don't know if it's the ankle, but we have it narrowed down to leg injury, which just isn't awesome news.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll be able to get back into the lineup.
So.
But bit of a weird start to the season.
Yeah, so let's start getting into some questions, though. So we got a bunch in Twitch. I've scrolled up, so I'll see them as I'm going. But for those of you watching on YouTube, yes, we're on YouTube, youtube.com/crashthepond, where you can like and subscribe to our channel, like all the videos there. It helps out a bunch. Comment on the videos if you have something to say. I will monitor it, so I will see your comments. I will respond to it. I'll see them. Don't worry, guys. Or if you're listening on your favorite podcast services, the real fun thing is we do this show each and every time at twitch.tv/crashthepond, where most times we're live at 8 p.m. on every Monday, except when there's a game, and it will be a post game. And for the next 2 weeks, I will not be here. It will be Felix and CJ, so you'll get to enjoy that the next 2 weeks. The production value might fall off a little bit. We'll see. But if you want to,
the inmates will run the asylum.
Yeah, the actual inmates are running the asylum. But you can watch all of that at twitch.tv/crashthepond, where you can help support the show. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month. You do have to hit that subscribe button. After 30 days, you get special emotes in the chat, special badges next to your name, and you help support the show. And you can do that just like, and we have a lot right now to get through. We have Olaf is Berserker, resub for 6 months. Lewis resub for 37 months. He said, I've been sub for Nick Ritchie months. Shout out to Lewis. That guy Bobski resub for 11 months, saying Terry is kind of good. Darko Theory resub for 6 months. Terry making Johnny Hockey review his defensive game. Chicken Taco Salad resub for 2 months. Kempafu resub for 25 months. D Elder Time, our good friend Dan Elder, resub for 9 months. Play Sanity has subscribed for the first time, and our good friend Science Cat 108 Jess gifted out 5 subs yet again, like clockwork. Thanks, Jess.
Nice.
We love you.
Nice.
So Betting555 said earlier on, he had a question. He couldn't stick around for the rest of the game, but do you think the Ducks could/would flip Stolars for anything? So not taking the side of wanting to trade Gibson, but instead, would the Ducks flip Stolars?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if Anthony Stolars continues to play well, if you do not plan on trading John Gibson, at least for now, if you could flip Anthony Stolars at the deadline, for, I mean, what could you possibly get from like a 3rd round pick? If like what's his maximum value? Like,
yeah.
I don't think you can get a 2nd rounder, but yeah, if you can turn a guy that you picked up as a UFA into a mid-round draft pick, like that's good value, and you still have Lucas Dostal in the pipeline, and that doesn't completely rule out trading John Gibson down the line either. So yeah, I think that might be something they're thinking about. Who knows?
Yep. Let's see. Our good friend Bonnie Littergirl said, "Why did Delorier and Lucic fight? Was there an impetus for it?"
So at that point in the game, the Ducks were getting like that was when I think they had just gotten scored on, if I'm not mistaken, and they were getting outplayed pretty badly. And I think, Delorier trying to turn the tide, trying to, fire up the boys a little bit. And I mean, I would assume that's why. That's what it seemed to be at that point in the game.
Yep. And then Raquel's goatee said, and this is, I think, the biggest question for you. I think this might be the toughest question you'll have. Who is the Ducks' biggest addition by subtraction? Derek Grant or Jacob Larson?
Ooh, that is a tough one, but there is an easy way to figure it out. It's Derek Grant, just given the fact of how much Dallas Eakins has been rolling him out this season. You're cutting down so many minutes that are just totally lost.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Derek Grant. And that's not saying that's not nothing, by the way, because Jacob Larson is equally terrible in his own way. But it's just the fact that Derek Grant plays so damn much.
Yeah, exactly. Although Jacob Larson still played a lot.
Yeah, but look, Derek Grant was like a de facto number one center through 2 games. So.
Yeah, true. M Young said, question, who from the goals, and by the way, M Young put in our chat earlier, if you see anyone in a Sam Steele 25th anniversary jersey tomorrow at the Oilers game, that is him. So anyone else going there?
Would that be a number 30? Wait, what was his number? 34?
I think.
Number 34, Sam Steele? Oh,
something like that.
Gross.
Wow.
34. I feel bad. I feel bad for Jamie Drysdale.
Who from the goals do you think has the best chance of getting called up and sticking with the team and holds a roster spot? And I said, and who do you think we see first? Cody Curran, big booming shot, or Jacob Perreault?
I don't know, man. I'm pretty. It's tough right now on Cody Curran Island. I don't know if we're ever gonna see. I don't know when we're ever gonna see Cody Curran make it. I mean, I'm still gonna hold out hope that he makes it one day. Like, I'm trying to be an optimist here. The likeliest to get called up, probably Sam Carrick.
Yeah,
if I'm being
let's
perfectly
be real.
honest.
I don't know. Yeah. I have the answer for you. It's gonna be Derek Grant will get sent down, and that will be him.
You think Derek Grant gets sent down?
I mean,
he's gonna have to go on waivers again.
No, he won't.
Really?
You get 10 games or 30 days on the roster.
Okay, that's right. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
So once he plays 10 games or is on the roster for 30 days, which I guess this counts as 1 day so far, 2 days, I think is where we're at of him being on the roster. So yeah. Let's see.
I mean, likeliest young player. I mean, at some point maybe Volkov will come back up.
Yeah, I think Volkov might come back up. I mean, with these injuries, we'll probably see somebody recalled.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jones is not going to play tomorrow either.
Yeah.
So,
and who knows? Yeah. Oh, we didn't even talk about it. Lindholm also got hurt.
I think he did come back though.
Oh, he did. Okay.
I'll double check.
Yeah.
For you.
Ginger Wolf said, question, and then I'll take this one. Reverse retro rumors. What do we want to see this time? So aren't there rumors that it's not going to be this year, but they're going to bring it back for next season?
Yeah. What do you want to see?
Can we just keep the same reverse retro jersey because it was beautiful?
I mean, I kind of want to see something different, just because why not? More jerseys.
I guess. I don't know. I want to see that jersey. No, I want to see that jersey in person on the ice though. That's the issue is that we got 2 games with that jersey. No fans ever in the building to see that jersey.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm like, just give me the same damn jersey. Let me wear my jersey to a game where the Ducks are wearing that jersey.
Fair enough.
Like, come on. At least give me that.
Okay.
And, let's see. We somehow just got spam in our chat, which is fun. I'll clean that up in a second.
Lindholm did not play in overtime, by the way.
Okay, he did not.
Nope.
Yeah. So yeah, the Ducks can just put Grant on waivers, by the way, whenever they want to. He just doesn't require waivers now to be sent down until basically the 10 games or 30 days has passed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's until basically I just had double audio. Whoops. All right. So anything else? Because I have a wrestling question that I'll get to. I'm trying to mod our chat. So I'll let you go because we have some spam in the chat right now. Just trying to clean it out.
Let me go for what? Is there a question?
No, just vamp for a second.
Figure something out to talk about?
Yeah, vamp for a second.
Well, so Lindholm did not come back. Didn't play in overtime. And if he cannot play tomorrow, if he's out for the foreseeable future, I mean, we're going to have to see someone else come back up from San Diego at that point. And I don't know exactly who that's going to be. There's, in terms of the left side defenseman, there's quite a few options that the Ducks could go with. I'm assuming Greg Panarin is not one of them now. If Dallas Eakins' reasoning is to be believed, my guess would be that we're going to see Jacob Larson back.
You think?
It makes too much sense. He's the one he's been a mainstay in the lineup for the last couple years. I mean, is Axel Anderson going to come as Simon? I mean, Simon Benoit got called up today. So maybe he is the one who draws in tomorrow. I mean, I would assume that would be him.
I mean, Benoit's a right-hand shot, so maybe not.
No, isn't he a lefty? I'm
God,
pretty sure he's a lefty.
yeah, you're right. I always make this mistake with Simon Benoit. I don't. It legitimately. I feel like I always think he's a right hand shot, but he's a left hand shot. I
No,
think.
he's a lefty. Yeah, so I would assume that Benoit comes in, but if Lindholm is out long term, who else comes up? That is the bigger question. I'm gonna go with Larson. I mean, that's who I'm putting my money on. I don't trust them to ever give Cody Kern a
I mean,
chance at this point.
they could sign Hutton also to a contract.
They could, but he's not even with San Diego anymore. So
Oh, he's not. He left the goals. I thought he did.
no, they released him. He was released from PTO. Yeah,
I missed that.
Yeah, that kind of flew under the radar. But I mean, I don't think it'll be Brendan Gooley. I feel like that ship is just totally sailed now.
Actually, no. I'd like to see Brendan Gooley.
Well, I mean, you would think that it would make sense to give him a
shot,
right? Like at some point, you kind of want to find out, see a little more from him. Let's face it, it'll be Broken Rafferty, despite him being a right-handed shot.
You know,
he's the most recent signing.
There you go. All right, so we'll end with this. Felix, you can take a step back. Our good friend NJ Devils fan 08 always, or NJ Devils fan 68 always comes through for me, saying thoughts on the Bryan versus Suzuki match. The fact that this match, Felix, you should check this out. If you want a match that actually shows the professional wrestling making it look like a sporting competition as compared to entertainment, that is what this was. It was hard hitting. It was amazing. And the fact that it was just on YouTube was insane. If you're at all interested in professional wrestling, go check it out on YouTube, AEW. And Inner Circle versus American Top Team, fun. I actually like it. American Top Team, Dan Lambert's been entertaining for me. Felix, this will actually intrigue you being a UFC fan. They've brought in the American Top Team, and Dan Lambert's cutting promo, and they have Jorge Masvidal. They had I can't remember his name, one of the like big old heavyweight fighters in a match this past week. It was fun.
Okay, I believe you.
Junior Dos Santos.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a fun time.
I don't care. But good for you. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Paige Van Zant's there.
She's not even a UFC fighter anymore. She's in bare
knuckle fighting. All right. So time to wrap this thing up.
I believe so. I feel like we could go on for another hour, but it is 11.
Didn't we say that we were gonna keep this to like 45 minutes?
45-minute pod. Yep. But we have 3 games to talk about.
We went from no games for 3 months to now 3 games.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to talk about, and I mean it's pretty fun. We don't have to wait that much longer for the next game. The Ducks will be playing Tuesday night against Edmonton, which get a look at the Oilers.
Speaking of which, will be a watch along.
Will it?
Yes.
Oh, that's news to me.
No, it's not. It should not be. It should not be news to you.
This is the thing. You have a calendar with all this written down, but that calendar doesn't get shared with me.
Felix, look at your Google Calendar.
I'm looking pretty terrible right now.
Felix, look at your. Okay, now, do I need to open up my Google Calendar and show my screen?
Are you gonna expose me?
Are you gonna share your screen on the share my screen. Let's see.
This is you're just raking me through the coals now.
I'm trying to figure out a way I can do this without showing any of our emails. But you are invited to Ducks at Edmonton watch along tomorrow from 6 to 9 p.m. Felix. Gmail invite, Google Calendar invite.
Why are you trying to destroy my credibility?
Because I actually went ahead and was organized this month.
Why are you trying to destroy my credibility? Okay. Well, yeah. So we're doing a watch along. Yeah. Check that out, folks. It's happening. Okay. Let's wrap this thing up. I think it's time before some other damning information about my lack of conscientiousness comes out here. Ways you can support the show if you enjoyed what we did here tonight. Jake is just broken. I think I broke Jake.
You did.
Oh, okay. If you enjoy what we do on this show and you want to support it, now Yeegs in our chat asking what's in the emails. Show the email, reveal the emails. Yeah, just out me.
That's a
Okay.
bad decision for you.
I don't even send you any emails. The only emails I send you are for like our show descriptions.
Good point. Good point. Had to make the joke.
So yeah, leak the emails for all I care. WikiLeaks me. That's not what will get me canceled. Let's now I don't know what Jake is doing. He's like going to grab his cat to bring on the show. Or is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I was
know.
trying to get her attention.
Okay. So, anyway, here's how you can support our show if you enjoyed the madness that just occurred for the last hour and a half. Number one way is our Patreon, which we already talked about a little bit. Patreon.com/crashthepond. So for a $1 a month, a $1 monthly pledge, you will get access to our patrons only Discord chat, which is a ton of fun. That one is where we have a bunch of great friends of ours at this point that you can interact with. Diehard Ducks fans just like you, people who just want to talk hockey, want to have a good time, want to maybe engage in the banter. There's some food debates in there. It's a lot of fun. It's a great place to talk hockey. It's a great place to just have a good time. Being on Twitter all the time, it might not be the most kosher place. I will definitely vouch for our Discord chat and all the great people in there. Now for $5 a month, you get access to that chat. You also get access to 2 bonus episodes a month. And so on those shows, we'll go more in depth, maybe on league-wide topics. We'll do rankings. We'll do awards predictions. We'll do a bunch of different things. Of course, we may go more in depth on different Ducks topics as well. And that's 2 bonus episodes a month. So if you enjoy maybe the lighter side of this show, I will say you get a lot more of that. It's a little more unfiltered on the bonus episodes.
Unfiltered is a very good way to put it.
As
if we're that filtered here.
We're a little more filtered. I'll give us that. Now for $15 a month, you get access to everything I just mentioned, but you also get access to 2 watch-alongs a month. God, I'm just losing it. It's 11 p.m., folks. Give me a break. 2 watch-alongs a month. So we will stream a Ducks game, and you can watch with us. We'll give you our live commentary, our reactions as the game is happening, give you some more stats, give you maybe a different look than what you might get from a traditional broadcast. A little more laid back. They've become really laid back.
I can guarantee this.
We started the.
I can guarantee this. We won't say that Daryl Sutter's avoiding Bo Grew because he's scared of it on our broadcast.
Wow.
Yeah?
Shots fired.
Yeah?
Shots fired. I will say that, our commentary is more in line with reality. So that's good. But it's also
and you said said shots fired.
There's also a chat during the watch along. So it's a link from YouTube, private link. And so you can chat with us in there, ask questions if you want, or just throw out anything that you're thinking, and we will get to it because it's 3 hours of airtime we got to fill. So trust me, we'll talk about it. And so all of that is going to be at patreon.com/crashthepond. Now, there's still some ways you can support us without having to spend any money. Totally get that. You can search for us on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and a review. And if you leave a review, we will read it on the show. We read one last week. That was a lot of fun. Love when we get inside jokes in these reviews. People really flex that you're a diehard listener of the show. So that's on Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to us there. As Jake already mentioned, we do these Twitch streams. That's at twitch.tv/crashthepond. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/crashthepond. Jake will upload the video, the actual stream from Twitch to there. So you can see our pretty graphics, our faces, Salem the Black Cat. You can see it all. And that's on YouTube. Make sure you have your notifications turned on there. And also check out our website, crashthepond.com, crashthepond.com/shop. We do have some cool t-shirts with our beautiful logo.
Yeah.
Which I recommend everyone check out.
Yep. Found one in my hockey bag yesterday.
Yeah, you just randomly found a t-shirt, which was pretty funny. And then you proceeded to wear it.
I did.
Which, I don't know, if I found a t-shirt at the bottom of my hockey bag, I don't know.
No, here's the thing. It was in my hockey bag that I put in my bag in my hockey bag that has all of my clean gear in it or clean clothes in it. So that means it came out of the wash. It was then packed into that bag. So it was somehow with my hockey gear, got packed back up into that bag.
A believable cover story. So we'll roll with it. Bagception. But and so I would say check that out. That really helps the show out quite a bit. Find us on Twitter at Crash the Pond. Jake is on Twitter at Reindeer Games 91, and I'm on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. And I will give a quick shout out whenever you're listening, I will be on the Locked On Oilers podcast Tuesday. and
There you
I'm
go.
assuming it'll go out that same day. So yeah, show them a little support as well. But yeah, anything else, Jake? Anything else you want to mention before we actually wrap this up?
No, just I won't talk to any of you, I guess, until November. So I'll be gone
Wow.
2 weeks. So hopefully Felix and CJ can keep this thing afloat while I'm gone. I have some work to do on my end to make sure things move smoothly.
He has to idiot proof the setup of this show.
I actually do have to idiot proof. So the podcast next week is not going to look the same. I will just say that. It's probably just going to be the very basic 2 images and not have any of the logos or anything like that. But, you know,
it will be severely dumbed down.
You will all have to make do with that for 2 weeks. Maybe I'll find a way to just legitimately Crash the Pond and make it the most basic, like Windows QuickTime or like QuickTime or whatever basic looking thing for you. You know, try to make.
I'm really getting dragged on this.
Also, there might not be any of the typical music before and after the show. So sorry, guys.
I'm just getting raked through the coals.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I don't even want to deal with the fact of having to get you that audio to get into it. So you know.
So it's your fault then. It's not my fault.
Partially.
Okay. Let's actually get out of here. We're over an hour and a half, which is exactly what we were trying to avoid. But you know what? It's fine. I think people are going to enjoy this. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next week. And Jake will be back at a later date.
November. Bye, everyone.